Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into um, a really dramatic period of British history.
Absolutely. It's packed with betrayal, huge ideological clashes.
Yeah, and a genuine existential threat to how the country was run. It almost reads like a real-life epic, doesn't it?
It really does.
But the strange thing is, for all its impact, this whole decade often feels, well, overlooked, almost forgotten sometimes.
That's true. It gets overshadowed.
So our mission today is to unpack what actually happened during Britain's Civil War. Why is it often forgotten? And crucially, why does it still matter now?
Right.
We're going to sift through the research, the articles, the notes you provided, and basically pull out the key insights, give you a shortcut to understanding what really marks the birth of modern Britain.
Sounds good. A crucial period.
Okay, so to really get a grip on how a conflict like this could even happen, we need to look at the time just before it all kicked off. What was the political mood? What were those early fault lines?
Well, the seeds of division were definitely sown quite a bit before the first shots were fired. You have to look at King Charles I.
Right.
Between 1629 and 1640, he famously had his personal rule, basically governing entirely without parliament.
For 11 years.
11 years. And this wasn't just about, avoiding debates he didn't like. It really changed how people saw the monarchy itself.
How so?
Charles deeply believed in his divine right, that he answered only to God.
Okay.
But his actions, things like raising taxes without parliament's okay, trying to force Anglican practices on everyone, Scotland especially. Many people started seeing this as, well, arbitrary, as overreach. It kind of laid the groundwork philosophically for challenging the king's power.
That's a really key point, that shift in perception. It feels like a slow-burning fuse then. What was the spark that finally lit it?
The fuse definitely got shorter with the Bishops' Wars. That was
Yeah.
1639, 1640.
In Scotland.
Yes, exactly. Charles tried imposing Anglican ways there, and the Scottish Covenanters resisted fiercely with arms. This actually forced Charles to recall Parliament because he needed money for his army. Reluctantly, of course.
Yeah.
But the real flashpoint, the moment trust just completely shattered. That came early in 1642.
What happened?
Charles, in a move that was just staggering, he actually stormed the House of Commons with armed guards.
He stormed Parliament.
Yes, to arrest 5 specific members of Parliament he saw as key opponents.
Wow. I mean, storming Parliament with soldiers. Was there any precedent for that? What did people think?
No, absolutely no precedent. It was seen as a direct attack on Parliament's independence, its privileges.
Even though Parliament wasn't exactly democratic then.
No, but it was seen as a check on the king. The reaction was hugely negative. It basically cemented the view for many that Charles was acting like a tyrant.
So that pushed moderates over the edge.
Absolutely. It pushed many firmly into Parliament's camp. Any real chance of sorting things out peacefully, gone, just evaporated in that moment.
And once that trust was fundamentally broken, the war was pretty much inevitable, I suppose.
It seems so, looking back.
And it wasn't just one quick conflict, was it? You mentioned it unfolded over time.
That's right. It wasn't a single event. It's usually broken down into 3 main phases.
Okay.
The First Civil War, that runs from 1642 to 1646. This is the main clash, really. Royalists loyal to Charles versus the parliamentarians in England and Wales.
And the Scots.
The Scottish Covenanters joined Parliament's side, mainly because of their own issues with Charles's religious policies. You get major battles like Edgehill, Marston Moor, Naseby.
Right, the big names.
Then Phase 2, the Second Civil War, much shorter, mainly in 1648.
What happened there? Renewed fighting.
Yeah, you had royalist uprisings popping up again, sometimes involving former parliamentarians who were unhappy with how things were going, and more Scottish intervention.
Okay.
Parliament won this phase too, decisively. And this victory is crucial because it leads directly to Charles I being put on trial.
And his execution.
And incredibly, his execution in early 1649.
We'll definitely come back to that.
Yeah.
So what was the third phase?
The Third War, sometimes called the Anglo-Scottish War, from 1650 to 51.
Right.
This is mainly about Oliver Cromwell's campaigns. He leads forces that, for a time, forcibly bring England, Scotland, and Ireland together under the new republic, the Commonwealth.
Right, after the king's execution.
Exactly. And this phase ends with the final defeat of Charles II, the executed king's son, trying to reclaim the throne. That's the Battle of Worcester in 1651.
So 3 distinct wars, really, across almost a decade. With all these battles, was there one moment, maybe one battle or event that you'd say was the real turning point? The one that effectively decided the outcome?
There definitely was a moment that was hugely significant, both militarily and psychologically. That's the Battle of Naseby.
Naseby. Okay, when was that?
June 14th, 1645. Militarily, it was just a disaster for the Royalists.
How so?
Parliament's forces, about 6,000 strong, completely routed Charles's army, which was smaller, maybe 4,500. Huge numbers of Royalists were captured.
So it broke their main army.
It essentially broke the back of the main Royalist field army in that first civil war. Game-changing on the battlefield.
But you said psychologically, too.
Yes, and this is what's really fascinating. After the battle, Parliament captured King Charles's private baggage train.
Okay.
And in it, his private letters, his correspondence.
And what did they find?
A goldmine of damaging stuff. Secret plans, negotiations with Irish Catholic forces, which was hugely controversial in England, and dealings with foreign mercenaries.
Oof, that sounds bad for him.
It was terrible for him. Parliament didn't hesitate. They immediately published these letters.
Published them.
Yes, as a pamphlet. They called it The King's Cabinet Opened.
The King's Cabinet Opened. Wow. So using his own words against him on a massive scale, was that kind of information warfare common then?
It was pretty groundbreaking, the scale of it. I mean, propaganda pamphlets were flying around, sure, but taking the king's private secret letters and just publishing them wholesale to destroy his reputation, that was a masterstroke of, well, psychological warfare. It swung public opinion sharply against Charles. Any sympathy he might have still had, it just evaporated for many people.
So Naseby wasn't just boots on the ground, it was also winning the information war.
Exactly. Decisive on both fronts. Hugely important moment.
Let's shift focus a bit from the battles and the high politics.
Yeah.
What was the impact on ordinary people living through this? It sounds like it must have been devastating.
Oh, absolutely devastating. Far from just being about elites, the human cost was just staggering.
Do we have numbers?
Estimates are around 200,000 deaths across Britain and Ireland. That might sound, I don't know, not huge compared to modern wars, but population-wise.
As a percentage?
It was about 4 to 5% of the entire population. Proportionally, that's comparable to the losses Britain suffered in World War I.
Good grief. That's enormous.
It is. And a huge number of those weren't soldiers. They were civilians. Caught up in sieges, dying from famine caused by the disruption, victims of reprisals. Just brutal.
And society itself must have been turned upside down.
Completely. Imagine the basic structures just crumbling. Local authorities might disappear or switch sides. Churches central to life then were often sacked or became barracks.
Right.
Landowners, the local elites could be displaced, estates confiscated, and taxes. They soared through the roof to pay for the war effort on both sides.
So chaos and hardship.
Deep chaos.
Sure.
But also, amidst all that, something else happened. There was this explosion of public debate.
How so?
Well, censorship kind of broke down. So you had thousands upon thousands of pamphlets being printed arguing every possible viewpoint, political, religious, social.
A war of words alongside the actual war.
Exactly. And radical religious and political groups, sects, they flourished in this environment. People questioning everything about how society should be run, who should have power, what religion should look like.
It sounds like just total upheaval, nothing certain anymore.
A period of profound uncertainty and transformation, definitely.
And within all this chaos, certain individuals obviously rise to prominence. Let's talk about some key figures. Charles III, obviously.
Yes. King Charles I is central, often seen as, well, an overreaching monarch. His rigid belief in divine right, his inability to compromise, it seems he fundamentally misjudged the mood of the country, politically and religiously.
And his defiance led him.
Ultimately to the scaffold. His refusal to back down led to this unprecedented confrontation.
And on the other side, Oliver Cromwell is the name everyone knows.
Cromwell, yes. He's fascinating. He starts as a fairly obscure member of parliament, a country gentleman.
But rises quickly.
Rises incredibly quickly, primarily as a brilliant cavalry commander. Then he becomes a key leader, arguably the key leader, of Parliament's military effort, especially with the new model army.
You mentioned the new model army before. What was so special about it? Why was it such a game changer?
Right, the new model army. It was revolutionary for its time. It was essentially Britain's first proper national standing army.
As opposed to?
As opposed to armies raised locally by nobles or reliant on mercenaries. This was centrally funded, centrally organized by Parliament. And crucially, it was professional. Promotions were meant to be based on merit, on skill, not just on your family name or social status. That was radical.
You said it was ideological.
Deeply ideological. Many of the soldiers were very devout Protestants, Puritans. They believed they were fighting God's cause, fighting for Parliament against a tyrannical king. Their loyalty was to the cause and to Parliament, not personally to a monarch.
So disciplined, motivated, professional.
Exactly. And well led by Cromwell and others like Thomas Fairfax, they consistently outfought and outmaneuvered the often more traditional royalist forces. It really shifted the whole momentum of the war.
It sounds like a precursor to modern armies in many ways.
In many ways, yes. National service, professionalism, ideology playing a part. It was a huge military innovation.
Okay, so the war ends. Cromwell's army is victorious. Charles I is defeated. What happens next? The aftermath must have been just as seismic.
Earth-shattering is probably the word. The single most shocking event was the execution of Charles I in January 1649.
The first British monarch ever to be executed by his own people.
Exactly. It sent shockwaves across Britain and all of Europe. Nothing like it had happened. It fundamentally changed how people thought about kingship and power.
And what replaced the monarchy?
The monarchy was abolished, so was the House of Lords. England was declared a commonwealth, essentially, a republic.
A republic in the 1650s.
Yes. For 11 years, Britain was ruled without a king, mostly under the leadership, eventually the protectorate, of Oliver Cromwell.
11 years. But then the monarchy came back.
It did. In 1660, Charles II, the executed king's son, was invited back. That's the restoration.
So did everything just snap back to how it was before? Was the whole war pointless?
No, definitely not pointless. Even though the monarchy returned, things weren't the same. Parliament's authority, its power relative to the crown, was permanently strengthened.
How so?
The memory of the war, the execution, subsequent monarchs knew they couldn't push Parliament too far. The fundamental balance of power had shifted. The idea of an absolute monarch ruling by divine right alone was effectively dead in Britain.
And what about all those radical ideas that exploded during the war?
They didn't just disappear. That blossoming of political and religious debate, the thousands of pamphlets, the new sects, it all fed into the longer-term development of democratic ideas, religious tolerance, freedom of speech. It laid crucial groundwork.
So even with the Restoration, the DNA of Britain had changed.
Profoundly changed.
It's fascinating. When you connect that to the present, you can still see the physical scars, can't you? Ruined castles, fortified towns.
Absolutely. All over the landscape, they're quiet reminders, markers of this incredibly turbulent period.
Which brings us back to that question. Why does a period so pivotal, so foundational, often feel, as we said, kind of hushed or forgotten in popular history? It's not taught as much as, say, the Tudors or the World Wars.
It's a really good question. Perhaps because it's complicated, it doesn't fit a neat narrative. You have regicide, a republic that was uncomfortable history for later monarchical periods to celebrate.
Maybe it's too messy. The lines weren't always clear-cut.
Very messy. Loyalty shifted, Parliament itself fractured. It wasn't simple goodies versus baddies, and maybe it felt too internal, too English or British, compared to the grand narratives of empire that became popular later.
But its significance is undeniable. You called it the birth of modern Britain.
I think it is. It's the point where parliamentary power really asserts itself over monarchical power. It's where ideas about representation, consent, religious freedom, free speech really start taking root in a powerful way, even if they took centuries to fully flower.
For anyone listening now, it really does have that epic feel. It's incredibly rich in terms of plot, moral ambiguity.
Yeah.
Allies become enemies. Society is just completely shaken up.
Like you said earlier, a British Game of Thrones, almost. But real.
Without the dragons, yeah. But the stakes were incredibly real.
Absolutely real. And I think looking back at it helps us understand things today.
Like what?
Well, think about deep political divisions, polarization. Think about debates over national identity, who belongs, how we should be governed. Think about distrust in leadership. The echoes are there. The fundamental questions being fought over about power, authority, belief, belonging, they haven't entirely gone away. They just take different forms.
So understanding this forgotten war gives us a lens on our own times.
I think it does. It shows how deep these tensions can run and how foundational moments, even messy, bloody ones, continue to shape the present.
So this war really was the crucible, wasn't it? Where Britain was reforged. Not neatly, not cleanly.
No, not in black and white, but in, bloody, difficult, often obscure compromise and conflict. It's dramatic. It was incredibly divisive, but it's so instructive.
Which leaves us with a final thought, perhaps.
Yeah. Considering how profoundly the British Civil War shaped the very foundations of modern governance and free speech, What does its forgotten status tell us about how we handle uncomfortable parts of our history?
Hmm.
And maybe how might those deep, unresolved tensions from that era still be subtly echoing in our political landscape today, perhaps in ways we don't always recognize?
Thanks for watching the video.
We'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to share them in the comments below. If there's a specific topic you'd like us to cover next time, do let us know.
Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. And if you found this one helpful, make sure to share it with others too.
See you in the next video.